Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about Jaime Lannister's fate in the final season. I'm going to explain you how Jaime's role will look like in the last 6 episodes of Game of Thrones, so without further ado, let's just jump into it. In the end of season 7, Jaime finally sees Cersei for what she really is, an insane, delusional and power-hungry queen who would betray anyone to secure her reign, no matter if her own life or the whole realm is in danger. Jaime finally abandoned his sister and now rides north to support the living side. He's no longer in the Lannister uniform, he's no longer commanding nor representing his house. Jaime is dressed like a sellsword. The first scene we will see of Jaime in season 8 will be at the Crossroads Inn, a popular stop for travelers on the King's Road. Jaime will stop at the inn for the night. This is also the place Jaime will reunite with Bronn. The next morning, Jaime and Bronn will ride west. The Crossroads Inn lies at the meeting point of major roads which run north-south and east-west. The King's Road runs north to Winterfell and south to King's Landing. The River Road runs west into the Riverlands. So why are Jaime and Bronn riding west to the Riverlands instead of north to Winterfell, as Jaime announced he will in the season 7 finale? That's something Jaime will explain to Bronn while having a pleasant meal at the inn. Basically, before going to Winterfell, Jaime will firstly go to the Riverlands to gather as much forces as possible, since the living side needs every soldier in the war that is coming. Jaime will take the command of the Lannister soldiers that are located in the Riverlands. Remember that part of the Lannister army has been sent there to ensure peace.
What are you doing in the Riverlands?
There's been some trouble with the Freys up at the Twins, so we're part of the army that's been sent to keep the peace.
Upon gathering the Lannister forces, Jaime will then ride to Riverrun to try to convince Edmure Tully to lead his Tully army to Winterfell and help his nieces and nephews defend it. In the second episode, Jaime will arrive at Winterfell with Bronn by his side and the Lannister forces that he managed to gather. Jaime will have a huge reunion with quite a bit of characters. Tyrion and Brienne will be proud that Jaime has honored his pledge, while Daenerys will be a little bit suspicious about his intentions. Of course, the most important reunion is the one between Jaime and the Starks, Bran Stark in particular. As we all know, back in the first season, Jaime was caught having an intimate relationship by Bran. To keep Bran from reporting what he had just seen, which would have resulted with Jaime, Cersei and all their children being executed, Jaime had to push Bran out of the tower window, costing Bran the ability to walk and rendering him a cripple. The only question regarding this reunion is how will Bran react? At first glance, we would assume that Bran will react angrily, since that's the man who almost killed him the last time they saw each other, but that will most likely not be the case. In the 4th episode of the 7th season, Bran Stark stated that he is not Bran Stark anymore, but rather the Three-Eyed Raven, meaning that he will not sentence Jaime to death, nor will he allow Jon or Daenerys to do the same. Rather than sentencing Jaime to death, Bran will reveal to everyone the real truth behind Jaime's so-called betrayal over Daenerys' father, the Mad King. In the 3rd episode of the season, Jaime will participate in a huge battle for Winterfell. This major battle sequence was already filmed. It included around 500 extras and it let Winterfell set burn down. There are photos in which you can see hundreds of armed extras fighting in the battle. Some of those men are the Unsullied wielding spears tipped with dragonglass, meaning they are fighting against the army of the dead. Even though the living side will suffer a tremendous defeat at Winterfell, most of the main characters will make it out alive, including Jaime Lannister. The entire living side will have to seek refuge somewhere south, and as it's been confirmed by leaked photos, Jon and Daenerys will come to King's Landing to once again parley with Cersei. In the end of season 7, Cersei's plan was to allow her enemies to exhaust themselves against the army of the dead, then have the Golden Company mop up the remnants of whoever is left in the north. However, the army of the dead is the one that will win the battle for the north. This is a moment Cersei will forge a new plan. She will now allow the entire living side to seek refuge at the capital, but she will also open the city gates for the army of the dead. Cersei's plan is to have all of them fighting inside King's Landing, whereupon she would burn them all with wildfire that is hidden all over the capital and that way get rid of all her enemies. These scenes in which Cersei has a parley in King's Landing with Jon Snow is most definitely taking place in episode 4, due to a fact that the director of episode 4 was spotted during the filming. So we have Cersei with an escort, her Queensguard including Gregor the Mountain Clegane, having an important meeting with unarmed Jon Snow. The Lannister flag flew above the fortress, indicating that Cersei Lannister is still in control of King's Landing. At first glance, it will seem like Jon is coming to plead for Cersei's help, after the living side has suffered a huge losses at Winterfell. After all, Jon would not return to enemy territory unless the circumstances were dire. However, Jon is coming to Cersei to propose her two options: to either accept the entire living side to seek sanctuary in King's Landing now that the Night King and his army have successfully gotten past Winterfell, or to refuse and get herself burned down by either Dany's dragon or even by the Night King's dragon, as she will not be able to stop him by herself. Long story short, this huge meeting between Cersei and Jon will end with another fake promise on Cersei's behalf. She will ensure Jon that the living side can seek refuge in King's Landing and it must not fall, while she's actually setting already mentioned trap. Having in mind that the person Jon has come to parley with is Cersei Lannister, many fans are wondering if Cersei will have Jon captured. Even though she would most certainly like to do that, she will not be able to capture and execute Jon like she did Ned Stark, or at least not at this point of the season. The reason being Daenerys Targaryen's presence. It's not only Jon who came to parley with Cersei, he is accompanied with Dany. One leaked photo shows a figure silhouetted in an archway. The figure seemed to be Daenerys herself, as the figure has blonde hair, a dark outfit, and a chain across their front. It looks the same to what Daenerys was wearing last season. Cersei will not be able to capture Jon, or even both, Jon and Daenerys for that matter, because of Danish dragons. How do I know that Danish dragons will be flying above the capital during this meeting? Well, beside Daenerys being there, as you can see, this parley is taking place in front of a window. HBO is trying hard to prevent spoilers this season, and this was a horrible way to do it, so filming this major scene in front of a window must have been necessary for the scene. Anyways, at some point of filming, crew set green screens across that window, meaning that Cersei will have a clear view on Danish dragons flying above King's Landing, and therefore if she is to capture and execute any of them, Cersei knows that the entire King's Landing would burn down. However, even though Cersei will not be able to capture Jon nor Daenerys in episode 4, she will capture Jon in episode 5. Jon, just like Eddard Stark did back in the first season, will do something honorable that will get him captured. Without anyone knowing, Jon will go to the Red Keep to have a word in private with Cersei. Basically, Jon will, just like Ned did, warn Cersei to flee into exile and step away from the Iron Throne to avoid her certain death, but also to save her unborn child. However, this will result with Jon being captured and locked up in dungeons. Daenerys will not be able to do anything because if her dragons start to burn down the Red Keep, Jon Snow would burn down as well. Anyways, ruthless as she is, Cersei will make one mistake that will cost her life. Cersei will have Jaime to meet her in the throne room just before she intends to blow up most of King's Landing. Cersei still loves Jaime and doesn't want him to die, so she will summon him to meet her and that way save his life. This way Cersei would assure that only her enemies would burn down while her and Jaime would be the only ones left. However, this is a huge mistake on Cersei's behalf, as Jaime will not only prevent her from burning down the capital, but will also kill her. One script page from episode 5 involves Jaime trying to convince Cersei that her true enemy is the Night King rather than Jon Snow, and therefore she should release him from the dungeons. He says, "Daenerys is not your enemy. Jon Snow is not your enemy. The only enemies you have to worry about are outside the city gates right now." Cersei takes her seat at the throne saying nothing. Jaime inches closer to his sister. His face is contorted in a look of desperate pleading. This has to work. Jaime says, "Cersei, you're an intelligent woman. You may be jealous, you may be cruel, but you know how to place your bets. Keeping the only man who can defeat the White Walkers in chains is not a smart bet." Cersei responds with, "You would have me release a usurper? Tell me after that northern fool and his white-haired defeat the Night King, what do you think will happen to me?" Jaime answers, "You can't defeat the Night King on your own," on which Cersei replies with, "Can't I?" Jaime pauses, racking his brain what this could mean, and then it hits him. Jaime then asks Cersei if she is referring on wildfire. Cersei nods. Jaime asks, "Are you sure we have enough catapults?" On which Cersei responds with, "We won't be using catapults." A long, measured moment of silence here. Jaime looks at Qyburn, then to Cersei. He shuts his eyes. His worst fears have been confirmed. This is a moment Jaime realizes that his sister and former lover is no different than a mad king he had to sacrifice his honor for and save many innocent lives. Jaime realizes that Cersei intends to use wildfire to get rid of all her enemies, including Jon's and Dany's armies that came to save the capital. Jaime realizes that Cersei is about to order the entire city to be burned down to ashes with millions of people in it, rather than support the living side and fight the Night King, because she knows if the living side is to win, she will not be able to keep the Iron Throne. Jaime starts walking up the steps to the throne. The Mountain watches him closely, breathing heavily from under his helm. Jaime says, "You can't do this, Cersei, there must be another way." Cersei replies, "There is no other way. The city gates will fall in an hour." Jaime then says, "Innocent lives are at stake here. 1 million innocent lives." Cersei fidgets in her throne, uncomfortable, and says to her brother, "Get away from me." Unfortunately, we don't have a following page at the moment, but we can all assume what is going to happen next. Jaime already sacrificed his honor once in order to save hundreds of thousands of innocent lives by killing the Mad King, and has ever since been called the Kingslayer. However, Cersei now intends to do the same. It's pretty safe to say that Jaime is going to kill his sister once she gives an order to Qyburn to, as the Mad King used to say, burn them all. Jaime will do noble sacrifice once again, but this time he will not trade it with his honor, this time it requires his life. Jaime will sacrifice himself by killing Cersei, as he knows the Mountain will kill him immediately. Jaime will kill the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms once again, but this time people will not mock his name. This time everyone will know that Jaime Lannister is the savior of the city and the only reason they are alive. His name will be remembered as a hero, and this great deed will fulfill his empty pages in the famous Book of Brothers.
So this is the famous Book of Brothers. All the great deeds of all the great Kingsguard, huh? It's Arthur Dane. The sword of the morning. Led the attack on the Kingswood Brotherhood. Defeated the Smiling Knight in single combat. Sir Duncan the Tall. 4 pages for Sir Duncan. He must have been quite a man.
So they say.
Sir Jaime Lannister. Someone forgot to write down all your great deeds.
There's still time.
Is there? for a 40-year-old knight with one hand?
Sir Jaime Lannister, knighted and named to the Kingsguard in his 16th year. At the sack of King's Landing, murdered his king, Aerys II. Pardoned by Robert Baratheon. Thereafter known as the Kingslayer.
It's the duty of the Lord Commander to fill those pages. And there's still room left on mine.
In the leaked script, it also says that the Hound and Brienne are riding towards Red Keep at a moment of Jaime's huge argument with Cersei. Therefore, it's safe to say that the Hound with Brienne's help will avenge Jaime's death. She will arrive in the throne room with the Hound just at the time to see the mountains striking down Jaime. The Hound will then finally fight his brother while Jaime is exhaling his final breath in Brienne's arms. There you have it, guys, detailed Jaime's fate in the final season. Jaime Lannister might not be the one to save the living side from the Night King, but he will be the one to save them from the Mad Queen, Cersei Lannister. And as always, let me know your opinion about all of this in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.